I know you're a selfie fan, so you want to get up and do your selfie first?
No, I just did it. I just did it.
He's just done it. All right, so we'll get right in. First thing I want to ask you is another big name that you guys have jumped into bed with. I'm not going to hold any punches. You got a nice big wad of cash from Xiaomi and others. So what are you doing with all that money?
You know, we're planning for the future. You know, there's a lot of advanced technologies that we're interested in, so we're investing in breakthrough stuff that can help us push this whole industry forward.
But you didn't really need that money, so you know you're flush with cash.
You know, it was really because
just sitting in a bank account, or
it kind of is. But we're like I said, we're looking for new opportunities. We want to do this because we wanted to work with Xiaomi and Jingdong. That's they are our best partners in China, and they've just been awesome to work with. So that's part of the plan.
Have you met Lei Jun?
I have, yeah.
Tell us what he's like. He's pretty low key, so I'd love to hear a little bit about what he's like to talk with.
He's a cool guy. He knows his stuff. He has great taste, you know, and knows about products. He's a really pretty amazing figure.
But they already have. I mean, they've got their own, wearable as well. So why would they want to give you money? And you're competitors. So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, you know, it is a different market, different kind of category. You know, their stuff's at a different price point. But really, it's a longer relationship, you know, because we're not doing just wearables. We're not just doing hardware, and we're not just doing China.
Right. I mean, wearables itself, as you know, it's a crowded market. Everybody's in it, it seems, including Apple now. How do you survive? How are you going to stand out? Because a big problem, really, as you've noticed, is a lot of people are buying wearables, right? And then they kind of get bored of it. A few months later, they're just kind of putting it aside. It's almost a fad. Is there something you can do to make this stick?
You know, I think one of the things that we saw when we looked at the wearable space was that a lot of this stuff, like I've said before, looks like it was designed by Silicon Valley geeks, like myself, for Silicon Valley geeks, as opposed to the mass market or for women. You know, I think women, that's like one of the biggest segments that are often overlooked in tech circles, so, or at least for these kinds of products. So our thing is really towards fashion, design, lifestyle, making wearables really wearable, you know, and our thing has always been either make it beautiful or invisible, or just don't do it at all.
Well, that was the theme of this conversation, supposed to be, how do we make wearables, more usable? So what are the key design points from the very start when you started doing them? And of course, you've had iterations of products. What are the things that have surprised you about, basically taking a band or a watch and making it more user-friendly? Is there something that surprised you along the way that you're now incorporating?
So I think, there's two things. I think comfort is a big deal. So people always talk about design. You got to make it really beautiful. But I think comfort is a really big deal. Just because something is curved doesn't mean it's comfortable. Doesn't mean it's flexible. Just because something looks like it could be comfortable doesn't actually mean it is. So being thin, being flexible, that's a big deal. And also making it so that it's trouble-free. You know, a lot of the wearables out there, you got to charge it every 3 to 4 days, maybe a week or two. So how many people here have lost their charger or forgotten to charge their device? You know, it's a lot of people. It's a lot. So but making it no charging, I think, was kind of a big deal for us.
And standardization, of course. We're such a new area that's, chargers of different types.
Yeah, everyone's got their own charger.
Well, we look back 10 years ago in cell phones, there was the Nokia one and the Motorola, and they're all very different. Now we're pretty much standardized. There's
micro USB, that's great.
Yeah, and of course, Apple doing their own thing. But the other thing I wanted to ask you really is, obviously you're out there to try and sell product, ship product. How are you doing now? How many have you sold to date? How many do you have sitting on shelves? What's your inventory like? Yeah,
that's a good question. You know, we've shipped over 2 million units since we started. So we've been in the market for about 1.5 years, and I think the future is bright. It's going to be interesting because you've got a lot of strong players in the market, good brands. But I think, it still feels early. You know, Tim, it feels like I've been saying that it feels like it's 1998 of the .com era. I mean, some of the greatest wearables companies and products haven't even been invented, haven't even been founded. So I think we got some time to go.
So 2 million to date. What's your target for this year, for the full year?
We're hoping to ship a few more million this year.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what kind of inventory do you have sitting around there right now?
Well, it's moving pretty quick. You know, we've got products like the Swarovski Shine. we're sold out basically on a daily basis.
Okay, so no inventory on that. The other thing that really you touched on is we're really in the nascent stages of this. But basically at the moment, wearables are something you put on your wrist, not much more. I mean, you've got something clipped around your collar there. Is this the best we can do? I mean, we're such an early stage and already people are kind of getting bored of them.
Yeah.
So surely you guys in the wearables market can do a lot better than this. So what is it that you guys are going to bring us?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, surely we can do more than just activity tracking, heart rate monitoring, right? And for a lot of people, they don't even know why they need to buy these products in the first place. And I think one of the biggest transitions that's happening in this space is really, I mean, put it very simply, making these things more useful, you know, where the use cases will be much more compelling. You know, there's really, there are 3 areas I think that's going to be big, 3 pillars of like really useful use cases. Safety, so stuff that you wear that, you know, you press the button and the cops come in a couple minutes if you're in trouble or your loved ones are notified. I think identification is a big one. So whether it's unlocking things or paying for things, I think ID, wearable ID, so that you have ID emanating from you on a persistent basis. I think that's really interesting. And controls, you know, we started doing that with Flash Link, which is the product that we just launched literally like just the other day, where you can start to control things, whether it's internet services or devices. You know, I've been going around doing little selfies for fun, you know, because it's like this new feature. But they've got to these things just need to be more useful to be really mainstream.
Right.
You know, they have to be something that you can't leave behind if you forgot it at home, kind of thing.
But one of the issues you brought up is identification for payments and so forth. And it's always on, it's always there, always identifying you. That brings up a lot of concern and fear, you know, about Big Brother watching. And of course, we know that governments wouldn't actually watch you. Why would they do that?
Yeah, they wouldn't do that.
Is there, are you getting feedback from partners or consumers directly about, you know, how much information are they gathering? And of course, it'll be more and more in real time as chips get smaller and the power gets stronger. Is there something that the industry is going to have to face in the next few years about dealing with this information? How much information is going to be stored and so forth?
So I think things are going to happen from 2 sides. I think on the one side, yes, industry will be reacting. There'll be standards, security practices, that'll be best practices. There'll be expectations for what products for how data will be protected or movable or not, deletable or not. So there'll be that dust I think will settle, you know, in the near term. It has to. But on the other side, and more broadly, the other mega trend I think is just like how social media has changed privacy concerns and privacy or habits around personal data, so too will wearables and the Internet of Things. Because it will almost be inescapable.
Right.
You know, things will be tracked more and more, whether you like it or not. And whether industry wants to change or not, it's going to happen. And I think over time, just different social habits will form.
Now, going back to the issue of, you know, obviously the data that you can track it so far, it's somewhat limited because we're really only putting it on our wrist so far.
Yep.
Gaze into your crystal ball for us. 5 years from now, will you guys Misfit actually be in wearables? And what will those, give us a picture of what they'll actually look like. Will it be rings? Will it be, you know, earrings? Will it be into glasses? We know Google, you know, had an attempt at that and others have as well.
Yep.
Where do you think the actual products will look like in 5 years from now?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think the transition from single use case kind of wearables where, you know, it's just athletes or firefighters or that kind of thing. I think we're gonna the transition to fully lifestyle products where people are wearing all the time. It's part of their jewelry, part of their accessories or clothing. I think that transition will be complete in a few years because, you know, like people just won't stand for products that are bulky and like, oh, I got to put this on now to do whatever, unless it's like an exoskeleton or something.
But will you guys be doing wearables in 5 years? Will you be doing these wristbands and so forth?
I don't know. I don't know if we will or not. You know, we'll see. I mean, if the market is there, we'll keep doing it. I mean, we've been having fun doing it up till now. It pays the rent. But I think there's so much more to be done. I mean, in the world of connected devices, the home, connected car, both incredibly interesting. So I think we're going to be playing there a lot more.
How about a smartphone? It seems everyone wants to do a smartphone these days.
Well,
you want to get in on that game?
I love smartphones. Making them not too hard, selling them super hard. So I don't think we'll be doing smartphones. Or laptops.
No. Well, not many going into laptops these days, but it's certainly smartphones seem to be a big thing. The issue of the use case scenario and how we'll use it. One of the big things I want to ask you about is the technology that is available now and the technology you wish was available, now or 5 years from now. We've seen this with smartphones. Of course, Apple came out with its smartphone all those years ago using a certain new type of capacitive touch that revolutionized. And often the ideas have advanced ahead of what technology can allow them to do. So what are the technologies, the dream technologies you wish you could, just have pop up right now today that could unlock a whole lot of new products and ideas?
Power. Power is like, everyone talks about it as an issue, and there's there's several ways to, you just don't have much space when you're talking about a wearable to put a battery that has much energy in it. And so whether it's ultra high density batteries, it's long shot. I haven't seen a whole lot out there. Energy harvesting, or ultra low power semiconductors, chips, and sensors. I think these are just several ways to skin the cat, and I think that's going to be a big limiting factor. And just because charging kind of sucks, that's part of why we have always said, unless you're really providing a ton of value, which you need to do, you shouldn't be asking the users to do much. So that's why, we've always been, okay, that's it, no charging. All of our products, as long as we can do it, no charging. And so which is also limiting.
Right. Anything else apart from battery? I mean, that's the key kind of killer problem right now.
Yeah, that's one. I think materials is going to be very interesting. Materials that are strong and light so that you can be thin. Again, remember, wearables being thin is super important. There's a lot of talk about electronics in textiles and whatnot, and stretchable electronics and whatnot. I haven't been convinced that that's going to be super, super useful anytime soon, just because, I don't know, I haven't seen a really compelling use case.
Right.
And just
the idea sounds good. But
yeah, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Kind of
right,
thing,
right. You talk about materials. The next 6 to 12 or 18 months, what new materials? Have you got any new materials you would be putting in your products?
My favorite material I always talk about is graphene, and I just wish someone would just make really cheap, highly producible graphene for the rest of us to use. But until I think for the foreseeable future, we'll just be tweeting about it.
Right, and dreaming about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, talking about graphene and the materials, we had Liam Casey up here on stage earlier talking about what you need to think about when you're trying to design products. And of course, a lot of your competitors are coming from these these startups, this kind of Kickstarter crowdsourced projects, and there's a lot of issues and troubles. Liam gave his ideas on tips to look out for. You've been through this process now, having started up Misfits and doing your own product from scratch.
Yep.
What are some of the landmines that people need to look out for in terms of developing for manufacturing and then sourcing someone to actually make your device for you?
So, making a wearable has its challenges. So we can talk about that. But actually, building a wearables company there's a whole nother can of worms. So on the first side, I think in terms of making the product, if there's anything I've learned in the last couple of startups that I've done, it's dream up the product, sell it, and if people buy it, then make the product, right? That's the whole fundraising thing or crowdfunding thing, and I think so. I would definitely advise on that. In terms of actually making the product, something that we focused on was doing the DFM process very early. Getting into the factory way early to see if it actually can be made. Making one of something pretty easy, 10 of something a little bit harder, but making 10,000 of something every day, that is a different kind of challenge. It's almost a different kind of product. And the kind of people who work on it, we don't look for people who are excited about wearables. We're just looking for amazing engineers wherever they come from. So look for folks with great skill, especially if you're building for scale. And in terms of building the business, it's easy to sell. I wouldn't say it's easy. It's a nice accomplishment to sell your first 10,000 units. But to really kind of get to the table, like to be at retail and to really sustain a business, you need to be selling at tens of thousands a month. And to really win, you need to be selling at, tens of thousands every day or two. And to get to each rung, I think it's just been, we've struggled. It's been hard.
Progressively harder, isn't
yeah,
it?
it gets exponentially hard. And the biggest struggle that I think all of us product makers have is awareness. Like nobody's heard about any of this, So it's because it's such a new category.
I do want to wind you back one thing.
Yeah.
You said the idea of selling the product before making it is something you suggest. But of course, the big risk there is that you can't actually make it. There is so many crowdsourced ideas out there, and of course they put out a timeline. We're going to deliver it in 12 months. And seriously, how many crowdsourced hardware devices have been delivered on time? It just doesn't happen.
Yep.
Isn't that a big risk? I mean, you're suggesting people go and sell something and they can't even prove they can make yet.
Yeah, well, first of all, you can always refund people's money and apologize, right? So you can do that, and you should if
That's
you can't
a great
make the
business
product.
model. I like that, yeah.
But I wouldn't recommend jumping into something that you kind of know you probably can't make. And so just making sure that you have a team that's shipped a commercial product before, that's made a mass manufactured product, I think that's a good thing. And under-promising, there's always this, temptation to say, well, I think we could do that, so we're just going to say we can do it. I don't know.
So under-promise and apology as your backup. That's pretty innovative device.
Well, look, we made lots of really cool products that we couldn't sell in my previous companies, and wasted a lot of money with product development. And I just wouldn't recommend that. Like we had to pay salaries on my own credit card and savings account. I mean, we emptied out me and Sridhar's savings accounts. It sucks, like being at the brink of bankruptcy. So save yourself. We should save ourselves product development resources and money, and see if people actually want a product. Look, face it, we're not Apple, where we can just unveil something and expect millions of people to wait in line to give us money. So we have to do it.
You have to prove it.
We have to prove it, yeah.
Prove the demand first.
Yeah.
We've got 20 seconds on the clock left, so I want to ask you, okay, so Apple's come out with their wearable, their smartwatch. Just, summarize for us what surprised you about the product once you finally saw it, and, what does it mean for you?
Look, if you want a screen on your wrist, not everybody does. It's probably the prettiest one out there. I think, the most surprising thing about it, I think, was just the number of SKUs, just how they embraced customization. That is so, it was previously so not Apple.
Un-Apple, yeah.
It's like we got black, and that's it. And, we got white now, and that's it. Yeah, but now it's tons of SKUs. So that's very non-Apple of them. But it's version 1, and by the time it's version 3, it's going to be killer.
Right. Thank you very much, Sonny Vu of Misfit Wearables.